Great. Sounds like we're live. All right, everybody, welcome to the March meeting of the Mountain Community Capital Fund. My name is Tim Love. I'm Buncombe County Government. I'm serving as our vice chair, and so we'll be facilitating our meeting. We do have a number of folks that are with us today, but I know are pushed for time, so I'm going to try to be expedient as we get through this agenda. But welcome to everyone that's joined us, as well as those on the phone or the live stream. To get this kicked off, I'm going to ask all of our members if you could turn your cameras on so we can see you. That'd be great. Additionally, we're going to start with a roll call. I'm going to go down the line and ask you to introduce yourself, your name, if you are a voting member, and the organization you represent. So going down the list, I will start with Carl.
Good morning. I'm Carl Alguire. I'm the Asheville City appointee, and I'm a voting member.
Dee Williams.
My name is Dee Williams. I am an Asheville City appointee, and I'm a voting member.
Frank.
Good morning. Frank McGowan, City of Asheville staff, and I am a voting member.
Hunter.
I'm Hunter Gooseman, county appointee and a voting member.
Karen.
Karen Amansky with Self-Help and non-voting member.
Kelly.
Good morning, Kelly Foster, Mountain BizWorks, non-voting member.
Nikki.
Good morning, my name is Nikki Reed. I'm with the staff with the City of Asheville, and I'm also a voting member.
Rachel.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Rachel Sawyer Nygaard here, on staff with Buncombe County Government and voting member.
Tara.
Good morning, I'm Tara Brown, also with Self-Help Credit Union, and I am not a voting member.
Vanya.
Good morning, my name is Vania Ramos, a business consultant from the Western Women's Business Center, and I am not a voting member.
Thank you. Last but not least, Promise. All right. Thank y'all. Is there anyone on the call that I have not asked to introduce themselves? All right, thank you. Based on my count, it looks like we have quorum, so we can proceed with this meeting. And if there's any action that we choose to take, we'll be able to take it because we have balance on the board. Moving to our agenda, in old business, our first item is approval of minutes from the February 3rd meeting. Those minutes were sent out with the agenda. Hopefully you've had a chance to review. Does anyone have any questions about the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand virtually.
Give us a second. Give us a second so Promise can capture that, if you would, please.
No problem.
Is that okay? I think that's unanimous.
I believe so. Let's see if there's anyone opposed. Some of you still have your virtual hands raised from the prior.
Sorry.
Nikki and Carl, are y'all voting in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Got it. Any opposed to approving the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes pass. We will continue forth on our agenda. Next up in old business, we have a review of nominations for the Mountain Community Capital Fund chair. So in our last meeting, Mally Vang notified the board of her intent to move on from the committee as well as the chair responsibilities. We discussed a process to allow nominations for a new chair. Those nominations were to be brought to me as vice chair, and then I will review them today. So I received one nomination for the chair, and that nomination was for Carl Alguire. So Carl, you have been nominated. What I would like to do in this agenda item, I'd like to hear from Carl, if Carl is willing to entertain that nomination. Additionally, I'd like to see if there's anyone else that this group would like to nominate for that chair position. It is not too late to do that if there is interest. So
Carl would like to see if there's any other nominations as well.
Understood, Carl. All right. Thank you for that, Carl. So we'll just go around the horn. Does anyone else want to make a nomination for the Mountain Community Capital Fund chair? You're welcome to nominate yourself or someone else. Crickets? Anybody?
Tim, I know that you probably won't be happy to hear me put this forward, but I think that you do a great job as vice chair when you're pinch hitting for chair, and I think you would make a fine chair.
Thanks. All right, so we now have two nominations for chair, one Carl Alguire and one Tim Love. Any final nominations? All right, Carl, looked like you came off mute. Was there anything you wanted to say or not say?
No, I appreciate the vote of confidence. I would, be willing to serve if need be, but I too believe that you have a very good command of how this is supposed to operate and how we've been operating. So I would certainly step aside if you were willing.
Thank you, Carl. All right. Any final nominations for chair? If not, we're going to close this item. So speak now. Great. All right. So we're going to move to new business. There's two items here. One is the election process. I'd like to talk about that process, and then if there's any adjustments we want to make to the process, glad to. We have two nominations for chair. So what I would suggest is that we go around the horn. I'll ask everyone on the call that is a voting member to not nominate, but to name a person who they would like to see as the chair. So this will be your vote. We'll do that. We'll document this in the minutes, and then whoever has the most votes will be the new chair of the committee. Does anyone have any issues with that process? Would like to see it done differently? Great. So I'm going to go down the list, and so please state your name and who you are nominating or voting for the position of chair. Nikki, there's a question.
There is a question. I just, with Rachel's nomination, do you care to comment? Are you willing to consider acting as chair? Just to put you on the spot, but we're getting ready to vote, so I want to make sure that that you have the time and the ability to fulfill that role.
I think that's very thoughtful of you, Nikki. I'm glad to take the responsibility if needed. I think there's some benefits sometimes to having a staff person in this type of role, since this is kind of our day-to-day job, but would also be glad to see someone else do it if that's preferred. So either way. Thank you, Nikki. All right, so we're going to get this going unless there's any other questions. All right, Carl, you are first up. Please state your name and who you're voting for.
Carl Alguire, and I'm voting for Tim.
Setting the tone, I see. All right, next up we have Dee Williams.
My name is Dee Williams, and I'm voting for Tim Love. Thank you.
Frank.
My name is Frank McGowan. I'm voting for Tim Love.
Hunter,
I'm Hunter Gooseman. I'm voting for Tim.
Nikki,
Nikki Reed, I'm voting for Tim Love.
Rachel,
Rachel Nygaard, Tim Love.
all right. Are there any voting members who I have not called upon to cast a vote? Great. Based on my tally, the future chair of the Mountain Community Capital Fund is Tim Love. Thank you for entrusting this responsibility with me. Thank you, Carl, for shirking it to me so quickly in the voting
Tim,
process.
Did you vote?
I didn't. Well, I should vote. I'm going to vote, and this is Tim Love, and I'm voting for Carl. Turnabout's fair play. But anyway, thank y'all. I'm glad to serve in the capacity. Look forward to doing it. So the minutes at this point should state that there were 6 votes in favor of Tim Love, 1 for Carl, which means that the new chair is Tim Love. So good deal. Our next item in new business relates to new loans. I did speak to.
I think you have a question, Tim.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Rachel. Go ahead.
Before you move on, we have a potential other item of business, which is that you are now currently both the chair and the vice chair. And so I wonder if Carl would be interested or open to serving as vice chair to support you and back you up.
I second that nomination.
This is Carl. Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. Sure.
That's great. Well, Rachel, thank you for catching that. That's a key ingredient. Sounds like Carl's in favor. So why don't we kind of redo just what we did? So we've got a nomination for Carl. Is there anyone else? Would anyone like to nominate anyone else for the position of vice chair? I'm going to take that as no additional nominations for vice chair. What I'd like to do now is parallel that voting process that we just went through. So I'll go down the list. Please state your name and who you're nominating for vice chair.
We could probably do an all in favor vote since there's a motion.
I agree. So why don't we do that? So can we have a motion and a second to start the vice chair voting process?
This is Hunter. I move that Carl be appointed vice chair of this group.
This is Rachel. I second.
Great. All in favor, please raise your hand. Right. Are there any opposed? All right, motion passes. Carl, congratulations. You are now the vice chair of the Mountain Community Capital Fund. Look forward to working with you in this capacity.
Thank you.
You narrowly escaped office. Not narrowly, you did not. All right, so back to new business, new loans from participating lenders. Carl, you have a question?
Yes, before we move on to new business, did we not have an item on old business regarding opening up the possibility of adding additional lenders?
That's a good question, and I think maybe there was some homework we needed to do. Does anyone have any input on that they'd like to share with the group? My proposal would be for us to put that on the next agenda and make sure we don't miss it this time. I think that was an oversight on my part. Carl, are you agreeable to us bringing that to the next agenda?
Absolutely.
Great. I'll make sure we get that in there. Does anyone have any thoughts they want to share on that before we move on? Cool. All right. New loans. So new loans, I want to open that up to any of our lenders on the call. I have spoken with Mountain BizWorks, Yasleen, who's not with us today, although I do see Kelly Foster's here. There were no new loans that needed to be brought forward today, so nothing was sent out. But did want to open the floor to Tara and Vanya as well to see if there's anything y'all had that you'd like to bring forward. I see Vanya shaking her head. Tara, anything from you?
No, thank
No
you.
new loans.
Sounds great. Good deal. All right. So that concludes our new business. For our next meeting, we'll have a discussion about adding new lenders to the fold. I think that's a great discussion. Thank you, Carl, for reminding us of that. Additionally, we don't state our next meeting. I would like to propose that our next meeting, instead of occurring in April, that we push for a May or June meeting. There are some items that we've been reviewing in terms of documentation. I want to make sure that our city and county legal teams are full prepared for that next discussion. Anybody opposed to moving our next meeting to May or June? Any preferences from the group? We would be skipping the April meeting is what I'm proposing, and potentially May. So.
I'd vote May.
May.
I can get on board with that.
Okay, so we'll shoot for our next meeting in May unless someone speaks out in the next 30 seconds. Okay. So our next meeting will be in May. We'll keep the same meeting schedule. I think it's the first Friday or something like that. And we'll send out an agenda and minutes and all of those things per usual. One thing that we'll work on for the May meeting and all future meetings, I'd like to make sure that we have a pretty tight schedule with bringing loans forward. And so I want to make sure that everyone's getting an opportunity to review loan documentation or loan guarantee information in advance of the meeting. So we'll set kind of a tight schedule on that. So kind of a point of no return. If the loans aren't ready by a certain date, then they're not going to come forward into this meeting. That'll be my proposal. I want us to be flexible, but I also want this group to feel like they have information time. So good deal. Before we open it up to public comment, I wanted to see if anyone on the call had anything they'd like to share with the group. It could be directly related to the Mountain Community Capital Fund business, or if there's other events or things that you'd like us to be aware of, please feel free to do so. Anybody?
No, but I do want to just thank you, Tim, for your willingness to serve as the new chair.
Glad to. Thank you, Frank.
And also want to add, thank you, Carl, for your support as the vice chair.
Thank you, Hunter.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks for covering me there, Hunter.
Good deal. Well, one item that I'll share with the group, just of interest, this coming Tuesday, the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners will be considering moving forward with county-owned properties for redevelopment opportunities, and specifically looking at the development of affordable housing on some of these properties. Some of you are familiar, but the county has undertaken a study with the UNC School of Government's DFI group, which is the Development Finance Institute. They've looked at something like 12 county-owned properties, many of which are located in and around downtown Asheville. I'd expect the board on Tuesday to take action to move some of those properties forward. Certainly not all of them, because building these properties out can be expensive. But just wanted to make y'all aware of that. That's clearly a community need. And I think depending on the properties, we may see some mixed-use development that could, pave the way for some potential small business opportunities as well. That's a long way off, but just wanted to mention it because it kind of parallels the work of this group. So that's my piece of news to share with the group. Anybody have anything? Last call. All right, great. I would like to now turn to public comment. And Promise, I believe I should turn to you to ask if there's any members of the public with us today. Thank you, Promise. All right. Well, without public comment, I think we can proceed to an adjournment of this meeting. I thank everyone for joining us today. I hope that you're doing well, staying dry, all of that. We'll see you in May, and I believe everyone should have that invite on their calendars already, but we'll send an agenda soon. So thank y'all. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.